who's up for challenge?
Of course.
Yeah, because I know that everyone here has some pretty interesting stories about how they got involved with Desertbus. How about for those of you who are interested, briefly explain.
Wow! All right. No, let's put people on the spot. Who do you find interesting?
Wait, your story's interesting.
I know, I'm teasing.
Oh, well, I guess I'm going to have to...
Is that the tour shirt?
Yeah. Isn't it good?
That's amazing.
Just, okay,
Sorry.
side note, Mitski makes really good merch. It's her album, but in a Ouija board.
That
It's
is
got her
very
little,
good.
thing on the back.
Yeah, Mitski's amazing.
I do think that I have a feeling they printed these backwards because I feel like this is supposed to be a like a breast pocket thing.
I kind of like it.
I kind of like it backwards though. I'm okay with it. Yeah. Anyway.
Whoever's interested,
Yeah.
please speak up and tell how you got involved.
I can do that. Sadly, he's not here for it, but it is,
I love how you got
yours
involved.
it is a funny and silly story. Way back in 2011, I had, honestly to this day, probably still one of the most interesting years of my life. I did that was the year where I did the Find the Future thing in New York that I mentioned earlier. I went to Chiptune Festival in New York. I got to photograph the last space shuttle launch that ever happened. Like all kinds of stuff like that. And somewhere in there, I hosted a house concert for a musician named Molly Lewis,
I've heard of her.
who I think we may be a little familiar with around here.
A little bit.
And she was excellent, and the concert was excellent. And at the concert, I met someone named Ashton Cummings and his partner Kara. And they were really cool, and I liked them, and I got along with them.
And you got to meet Kara.
What?
Molly? I've never met this man.
So, sorry, it must have been the other Molly Lewis. So I met them at this house show, went off, had a ridiculous summer.
Yes.
Also got laid off in the middle of that, but whatever. And came back, and I didn't want to lose track of it. I didn't want to lose the connection that I had with this person. I was like, oh, hey, like, let's go get dinner together. Let's do a friendship kind of thing. We don't know each other that well. Let's hang out. I just got back from my stuff. And we went out for dinner together, and we were chatting, and after, we talked about our lives in general, and we talked about what I've been up to this summer, he'd been up to this summer, but he was like, you've been doing a bunch of ridiculous stuff. What else would you like to do? And I go, well, I don't know, it's kind of a weird niche internet thing, but have you ever heard of this stream called Desertbus for Hope? Ashton thinks I am doing a bit, and says, no, what is it?
Oh my gosh.
I don't realize that Ashton is doing a bit. And I proceed to, for a really long time, in laborious, probably incorrect detail, explain what Desertbus for Hope is to Ashton, followed with, here's a thing where I think they've been where they have tons of video coverage, it's hugely streaming. There's not a lot of photos from it though, so most of the press coverage just uses a screenshot of the game, but that doesn't really communicate what's happening. So I think I don't know if they'd be willing to let a stranger come in and do it, but I'd be willing to do it. I should reach out to them and email the folks over there and be like, hey, would it be all right if I came by for a day or two to photograph some of the events? So this is the thing that I'm thinking of doing, and I'm still going through this explanation before he's just like, stop. I was like, what? You're not doing a bit. I was like, no, this is a real thing. I think he doesn't believe me about Desertbus for Hope. So I'm like, no, this is a real thing that I would like to do. He's like, I'm Ashton. I'm like, yes? I'm Ashton. I run all of the web tech and everything for Desertbus for Hope. Oh. Do you need a photographer? I guess. And it worked.
And yeah.
But yeah, I explained Desertbus for Hope to Ashton and unintentionally pitched him on my idea, and he was like, "This is super funny, but yeah, okay, I'll talk to him."
I absolutely love that story.
That's how I got involved.
It's so good. It's so good.
Anybody else know it? I feel like yours yours kind of traces back to how you got involved with Loading Your Rent, like the drive to Calgary Comic Con.
Which is also part of the question.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we abducted you.
Yeah. That wasn't a Desertbus thing. That was just when I moved to Vancouver.
Right, but like that
Yeah,
was...
yeah. I mean, yeah. It was. We'll just tell that story because that's way funnier. Because I just at that time. So basically, what happened was.
Let's stick up.
In PAX, I met you, Kathleen, and Paul at PAX East 2011, I think?
I think so.
Yeah. And I remember also meeting you and being super nervous and fangirling. I'm like, I really like your stuff on the internet. And I went off on a rant, and I was like, oh, I also make comics for The Escapists. And you were like, oh, cool. Let's hang out. And then I hung out with you guys there. But then, and I had mentioned that I was going to move to Vancouver in the next couple of months, because at the time I was still living in New York, in the middle of transferring. And yeah, I moved to, and the captain was just like, yeah, you should come and visit, maybe hang out at Desertbus. And I was like, that'd be nice. And I thought she was just being polite. And then I got to Vancouver, and then, so I guess in Vancouver, I got there pretty early before school started. I think I had like a week or two to kill. And it was while the Stanley Cup finals were going on. And I had made some sort of joke on Twitter about like, oh, if it goes bad here, I'll just go to Victoria to watch it with you guys. And then they lost the second to last game, and it was just like, I guess I'm gonna go to Victoria. And Kathleen's like, we have a couch, come hang out with us. And so I hung out in Victoria, and it was great. And then on the way back, you guys were like, oh, well, we're driving to Calgary for Calgary Comic Con. We can drop you guys, you can drop you off in Vancouver, so to drive through there anyway. And I was like, okay, cool, free ride, sounds good. And they're like, or you could just come with us. And I was like, that seems really fun. Also maybe dangerous, because you guys don't really know me that well.
See, like, that's always my favorite, because you've told me this story several times.
Yeah.
And that's always my favorite part, is that it's just like, or you could just come with us.
Yeah.
It's okay, though.
Well,
Calgary and
what's
Vancouver
funny-
are really close, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, super close. It's like a
16-hour drive.
16-hour drive. But the best was, like, we had both the reverse reaction where I was just like, I don't understand why you guys took a stranger in your car, and then you guys were like, I don't understand why you got in a car full of strangers. So
It didn't seem weird to me.
no, it didn't really seem weird to me either.
Even in retrospect, it was like, you seemed cool.
Yeah.
We were all just being friendly.
Yep, and it worked out. The only thing that was scary about it was Matt's driving. But yeah, and then it was the best part about that whole weekend.
I wasn't in that car.
No, you were in the car ride back though, weren't you? I thought you were. Maybe not.
Sorry,
The best was the phone call with my mom while I was in Calgary. Because she was just like, how's Vancouver? I'm like, I don't know, I'm not there anymore. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm in Calgary with my friends. Who? I'm like, my friends from the internet. And she just was very scared.
I'm coming back to defend my honor.
Yeah.
Driving was terrifying.
No, the mountains were terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to see mountains.
I did.
I
They
was
were
driving
very-
it like a normal mountain road, and you were white knuckling it the entire way.
Yeah, also that. But also Matt has the horrible habit of trying to talk to you while he's driving and then looks at you and not the road. Please don't do that anymore. I love you. Drive safe.
I feel like we've transitioned to something else entirely now.
Anyway. But yeah,
Did-
that was the, and then just Desertbus was just after that. I came and hang out again.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
What was the question?
How people got involved with Desertbus for Hope, if it was an interesting story.
Yeah.
It was a challenge that
I've
you
been here.
accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm winner.
I've been
Mine
here a
is
minute.
super boring. I saw a video, and then I came out for Lurcon because I used it as a good excuse to check out the city I was planning on moving to anyway, and fell in love with Seattle. And then I just ended up hanging out with Graham, Kathleen, and that's also where I started hanging out with Andrew.
Yeah.
'Cause-
we met at Lurcon.
Yeah, we met at Lurcon. We'd know each other through streams a little bit, but we met at Lurcon, and the first thing we did was go to a Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Because it was I don't know if it's still a thing, but it was a thing where there basically are no Taco Bells in Victoria,
Yeah.
at least, if not Canada.
Same. Hey, Bug Splat.
Bug Splat.
Nice.
Yes. So we went to Taco Bell, and then we just brought it back, and we were drinking beer, whiskey, and eating Taco Bell out in like the lobby area. And we just started talking about Desertbus and stuff, and it eventually got kind of talked about it of like, oh, when we open up volunteers, you should just send a thing.
Yeah.
And I sent a thing.
It was like I had been doing something really. I think maybe I'd been photographing a few of the panels or something, and you like stopped me to chat for a few minutes, and I was enjoying the conversation, but I was also like, I am real hungry. I was like, I've just met this person as our fan, but I kind of know them from the stream, and like they seem really cool. So like, hey, let's go to Taco Bell. Like, I don't know what you're doing right now, but if you want to go to Taco Bell, let's do it. And then we just wound up hanging out for like an hour or two.
We just started talking about Vancouver restaurants.